Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Toph, Katara and Ty. Part 2. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. I can't believe those two morons went back to that planetarium thing. Well, we have to keep that nerdy owl busy. QP complained. Naruto scowled. Shut up, Fox. They wanted to see when the next solar eclipse was so that we have the better advantage in this war. Naruto said as they ran with Katara and Momo. Yeah, but you are forgetting one important detail. The fox said seriously. Oh, and what is that? Naruto asked. I will lose my firebending during that time and the golden fox would be useless. The small fox shouted, which gave away their position, and they had to run some more. There are other ways to fight in this war. Naruto whispered as they hid behind a pillar with Katara and Momo behind another. Wong arrived in the room that they small group was in and narrowed his eyes when he saw Momo's tail popping. At least I'll have one specimen to add to my collection, although I wished with was QB. Naruto growled before he got in the way of Wong's descent on Momo and Katara and threw a blast of gravity in the owl's face, veering it away from them. As they were running towards the exit, Naruto shouted to Katara, we have to get the hell out of here. Toph may be slowing the descent of the library, but she can only hold on for so long. I figured that. Katara shouted back. I am also worried because she let go twice. Toph or Appa might be in trouble. Naruto said. Katara widened her eyes at this, but didn't have time to comment because Wong was upon her, so she got ready to fight. Your water bending won't do you much go here. Wong announced. I've studied southern water style, northern water style, and even foggy swamp style. Naruto saw Sokka and Aang coming to get them and nodded as the water tribe boy. The blonde sent a blast of gravity at the owl, sending him up a few feet before Sokka came down and bashed the owl's head with his club-like blade. That's Naruto and Sokka's style. Learn it. Naruto chuckled before saying. Come on. We have to get out of this place. The blonde then jumped high in the air thanks to his chakra and gravity bending. Wait. Professor. Let's go. Sokka shouted. Professor A, who had been near a few bookshelves, reading some tomes, looked up and smiled. I am not leaving, I can't. I spent too long trying to find this place. There's not another collection like this on Earth. He then closed his eyes and inhaled deeply. I could spend an eternity here. QB, for once, kept quiet. Just go. Katara screamed. Aang took hold of the rope the others were climbing up on and quickly made his way out of the library, with Naruto and QB not far behind. As soon as she heard them landing on the sand, Toph quickly let go, letting the library fall into the ground. Aang looked around and saw that Appa was not there, something that Naruto feared. Where's Appa? Toph just shook her head sadly. No. How could you let them take Appa? Aang yelled at the blind girl, hurt that Appa was taken. Why didn't you stop them? The desert was getting windy and Naruto could tell the tensions were high. Don't blame her, Aang. Naruto snapped. She is the reason we didn't sink to the bottom of the desert. She could have come to get us. I could have helped him. Aang shouted in Naruto's face. I can hardly feel any vibrations out here. The sandbenders snuck up on me and there wasn't time for Toph shouted back before she was interrupted by the Avatar. You just didn't care. Aang screamed in their faces. Neither of you do. He then pointed to Toph and shouted, you never liked Appa, you wanted him gone. Aang, stop it. You know Toph did all she could. She saved all our lives. Katara interjected, trying to calm the boy down so that Naruto would not hit the boy for yelling at Toph. Who is going to save our lives now? Sokka said as the mini sandstorm got worse. We'll never make it out of here. That's all you ever care about, yourselves. Aang shouted as he stomped on the sand. You don't care whether Appa is okay or not. As he sat on the sand, sulking, Katara continued, we're all concerned, but we can't afford to be fighting now. Aang, not really listening, looked out onto the sandy horizon and he gained a serious and angry expression on his face. I am going after Appa. Aang. Wait. Katara shouted, but it was too late, he had already flown off. She looked on sadly as he flew away until she turned back to the group. We better start walking. We're the only people who know about the solar eclipse. We have to get the information to Ba Sing Se. As they were walking away, Sokka asked, you think if we dig out the giant owl, you think he will give us a ride? QB jumped from Naruto to Sokka's head and asked, oh, you mean the one that was trying to kill us? Naruto noticed that Toph looked down and said, don't blame yourself, Toph. But it is my fault. Toph replied sadly. No, there was not much you could do. Naruto countered. I would have helped if I could have gotten them all out sooner. I felt that you were in trouble, but I didn't react fast enough. Felt? What? You think you're the only one who use earthbending to see? Naruto said with a smirk. But, I thought you couldn't. Nah, I was just a slow learner when I came to that, Naruto said as they followed Katara. Besides, I had to use it to get out of places where I bit off more I could chew. Yeah, you'll never change. Toph giggled, which made Naruto happy that he could cheer her up. Trudging through the desert, Sokka was panting hard because it was way too hot. QB was on Naruto's head using his tails as a fan. This is one of the time that I wish I was still in that seal. I don't blame you. Naruto mumbled. He did not do well with extreme heat. Toph smiled, her friend was still the same, no matter how long he had been away from her, however, something seemed off. Naruto seemed a little too understanding with Aang's loss. He never actually told her much of what happened while he was gone, and he mentioned something about having something against the Fire Nation. She was so in thought that she ran into Sokka while he was trying to make Momo's wings into an umbrella. And you watch where your Sokka said angrily before he noticed who he was talking to. No. Toph said indignantly. Right, sorry. Sokka replied while rubbing the back of his head as she passed him. As Naruto passed him, he smacked the back of his head. What was that for? Just because. Naruto said with a smirk. Katara looked at them tiredly and said, come on guys, we have to stick together. If we sweat anymore, I don't think sticking together will be a problem. Sokka said as he and Naruto's sleeves were stuck together and Toph was stuck to both of the boys. She fixed that problem easily by forcibly pushing the two away. Katara did think that all that was hilarious because the two boys tried to fight each before Toph tried to stop them, and that got all of them stuck together. Toph looked at Katara and asked, Katara, can I have some water? Okay, but we have to try and conserve it. She said as she bended 5 small orbs of water into all of their mouths, excluding herself. Sokka put on a thoughtful look as he tasted the water. We're drinking your bending water. His eyes widened, ugh. You used it on that swamp guy. It does taste swampy. Commented Toph. So that is what the odd taste is. Naruto said, I was just going to play it off as fish water. Oh shut up. At least we go it. QB said, too tired to complain while Momo made a blah sound. I am sorry, that's all we have. Katara said. Not anymore. Look. Sokka said as he pointed to a random cactus before running over and slicing it, revealing that there was liquid in it. Sokka wait. You should not be eating strange plants. Katara yelled to her brother as she took a hold of Toph's hand and dragged her over to her brother. Naruto shook his head as he watched Sokka, Momo, and QB drink what was inside the plant, not bothering to heed Katara's words. Look, there is water trapped inside these. Sokka said as he offered it to the other in the group. Umphis. Naruto said as he walked up to them. Drinking crap like that can. Naruto bothered to finish because Sokka went and drank it anyway. That is when Sokka and the other two animals went loopy. Sokka spewing out some crap about the water being quenchy and good. Why do I even bother? Naruto said as he held the bridge of his nose. Who let Toph on fire? Sokka babbled while Momo flew in circles before falling down. QB was worse though because he was talking about getting with a certain two-tailed cat. Ugh. This is going to be a long trip. Naruto mumbled. Can I get some of that cactus juice? Toph asked with a smile. I don't think that is a good idea. Katara said as he put a hand on the two earthbender and lead them away. Come on, we have to find Aang. After a few seconds of Sokka staring at the sky, Katara ran back to get him. How did we get out here in the middle of the ocean? Sokka suddenly asked, making his sister sigh. Naruto put on an evil smirk. Oh it was Wong, that giant owl chased us to a magical portal. Whoa. Sokka yelled, making Toph giggle, but that turned into full-blown laughter as QB started sing the sailor song. Naruto, not seeing any harm in it, sang along. They all sang as the song started. So if we all come together, we know what to do. We all come together just say we love you. And if we all come together, we know what to do. We all come together just for you. It was then that Naruto very crudely used his earthbending on the sand to create a cannon, and its occupant was the fox. However, when the blonde tried to shoot it off, it just exploded, but it did the intended job and sent QB into a dune, erecting a scream from the fox. Katara wanted to smack her head at all the stupidity she was seeing. However, she was surprised when Toph began to sing along. She blamed all this insanity on the heat. Racing all around the 7 seas, chasing all the girls and making robberies. Causing panic everywhere they go. Party hardy on Titanic. Sokka butted in as he was jumping around. Sailing, jumping off the railing. He took another random cactus and drank the liquid. Drinking, till the ship is sinking. Both the boys jumped in, gambling, stealing, lots of sex appealing. Let us sing the sailor song. Toph continued, before everyone but Katara joined in. So if we all come together, we know what to do. We all come together just say we love you. And if we all come together, we know what to do. We all come together just for you. Toph jumped in again as her hip bumped the blonde. Sailorman, you really turn me on. Now the guys are gone, come let us get it on. Girls like me are really hard to find. So if you go, I'll kick your hiney. Sokka and Naruto jumped in once again. Sailing, sailing, jumping off the railing. Drinking, drinking, till the ship is sinking. Gambling, stealing, lots of sex appealing. Let us sing the sailor song. Toph sang. Finally, Katara could not take it anymore and shouted. Stop. Come on. We have to find Aang. Naruto shrugged. Sorry, just trying to lighten the mood. As they walked away, Sokka was still singing the song, but it was bad, and a giant mushroom cloud made of sand rose up behind them. What is that? Katara asked. What? What is what? Asked Toph, oblivious to it all. It is a giant mushroom. Sokka said with awe as he threw his arms in the air. Maybe it is friendly. No, it is just a pissed off avatar. Naruto said with a sigh. Come on, let's just go. Sighed Katara as she took Toph's hand while Sokka went on and on about the large mushroom cloud before Naruto dragged him and Momo away. The desert was entering twilight now and things were starting to get cold. The avatar and still not returned to his group, and that was just fine with Gaara. The Sandman noticed that the blonde had put on his Akatsuki cloak and narrowed his eyes. Shukaku saw this and smirked evilly. Is it time? It is time. Gaara said stoically as he lifted his hand, making sand float in the air before it turned into sharp daggers. As they flew off, Shukaku grew wide-eyed with bloodlust as he watched the daggers fly toward their enemy. It is about damn time. Naruto had been sensing that someone had been watching them for a long time now. Ever since they entered the desert, and now they were revealing themselves. His eyes cut to the sky and saw the airbender coming for them in the distance. So just as the avatar touched down with a sour expression on his face, he was shocked to see Naruto running at him before knocking on his back with his boot. Before Aang or anyone else could ask why he did that, Naruto revealed his claws out of his sleeves before slashing in the air. A few things flew off in different directions, but one landed a few feet from Aang's head. He saw that it was a dagger made out of sand before it fell apart. Looking back to Naruto, he said as he took the blonde's offered hand. You saved me. What are friends for? Naruto said with a smirk. But even you should keep aware of your surroundings. Yeah. Aang mumbled with rubbing the back of his head. But who is attacking us? We're about to find out, Aang. Naruto said as they all heard a creepy yet annoying voice that sounded high-pitched. Rip. Slaughter. Devour your enemies. It is the only way to survive. It yelled, creeping them all out except for QB, who just looked on with a bored expression. He had gotten over his juice high a few hours ago, unlike Sokka. Okay, there is only one idiot who would say things like that. QB drawled. Shukaku, what the hell are you doing here? Shukaku, in all his small glory, popped out of the sand and shouted, I am here to destroy you. Oh, and how do you suppose to do that? You were always the weakest of the 9, and now that we are in this time, our power is diminished by a lot. QB said. Oh, I am not alone. I have my Jinchuriki. The same Tanuki shouted. Gaara. Hurry the hell up. Yes, mother. A flat monotonous voice called out as he sand sunshined in front of them all. Katara was instantly freaked out by his dead expression. I am not you, mother. The raccoon screamed. This made the group wonder if the duo in front them were sane. Ignoring the raccoon, Gaara shifted his gaze to Naruto. So the Jinchuriki of the QB no Kitsune is before me at last. I was sent to take you back to the past. He scoffed at that. Even I know that the ring-eyed man's words were fake. He and his group captured the rest of us for a reason, but when he found out that you were not among us, he sent all of us to find you. Naruto's eyes widened at that. He sent the other 8 after me. Correct, and once we do, we are to go back, but I have other plans. Gaara said, getting a confused look off the blonde. I would rather prove my existence with you. What do you mean? Naruto said cautiously, not liking the growing insanity in the redhead's eyes. I will kill you to prove my existence. You and the avatar. Screamed Gaara with an insane smile. This statement got them all into gear, even Toph, who could not fight so well in this environment. Naruto just stood there and said, no. Prove your existence another way. No. No. Gaara screamed. There is no other way. I killed to prove my existence in the old time, and now this time. I fight for only myself. I love only myself. Naruto sighed sadly. Is that what you resorted to? He asked with sadness before his eyes grew serious, off-putting Gaara a bit. I will show you that you are wrong. I fight to protect my friends. If you have someone to fight for, that is when you truly become strong. The blonde's friends all smiled at that. Gaara seemed to consider this before his face grew more insane. Let's test it then. Gaara made a few signals with his hands before the sand exploded all around them before twisting in on itself and capturing Toph. The sand rose high into the air, forming a pillar. At the top, Toph was restrained in a circular construct with all of her limbs bound so that she could not bend her way out. Defeat me and she lives. If you don't, she will slowly be crushed. Sand began to rise and form an orb around Toph. Toph! Naruto shouted. Seeing Toph in danger, it brought out Naruto's protectiveness of the girl. Hang on. Don't worry about me. Toph shouted, just kick his ass. Naruto nodded, not that she could see. Aang walked up to help Naruto, but the blonde just held out his arm to stop the avatar. Sorry Aang, but this is my battle. Just help Katara make sure Sokka doesn't do anything. Are you sure? Aang asked, worried for his friend. Dead? Naruto replied, making Aang reluctantly nod his head before returning back to the others. Naruto began a mental countdown of what he could currently do. My earthbending pretty much sucks out here. Although sand bending is just another branch of earthbending, so I should try and learn that later. Right now, I have one chakra bending technique, my gravity bending, and my lightning bending. This should be fun. Gaara, tired of waiting to fight, screamed, time to die. With that, the sand exploded all around the red head, revealing huge strands of sand, swirling the air. Sokka, still under the influence, widened his eyes and shouted, octopus. Ignoring the random outburst, Naruto looked at all the swirling sand in the air as Gaara and Shukaku rose into the middle of it all. Okay, this is going to be harder than I though. He didn't have time to think much on it because a large strand slammed down on the spot he was just in. Thanks to his quick reflexes, Naruto jumped away just in time before he took a chance and ran up the strand of sand, heading straight for Gaara. Gaara narrowed his eyes at the blonde before he sent a few more strands of sand at the blonde. Naruto growled before he ran at the incoming strands and jumped off the one he was on just as the other crashed into it. He then brought out his hook swords to swing around one of them and landing on another before repeating the process 2 more times, annoying the raccoon boy. Toph could not see anything like her friends, but this structure she was in let her see what she was in. The sand was solid enough that it let her seize. Her range was widened as well, since this structure was connected under all the sand to the structure Naruto was in. So she was able to see her longtime friend fight for her. For some reason, she could barely see Aang and the others. As he watched the battle between her best friend and this nut job, she silently rooted for this battle to be over soon. Suddenly the sphere around her closed in a bit, scaring the crap out of her. Come on Naruto, I know you can do it. Naruto heard the sphere and was momentarily distracted because the sand strand sharpened to spear points before shooting at the blonde. Naruto reacted quick enough to put his hook swords away and bring out his claw as he slashed them to pieces. However, one got in his guard and sliced into his shoulder. Ah. We have to help him. Katara shouted. I know, but he does want it. Aang said sadly. I think he is trying to prove something. What? About which way of fighting is better. Yes. Aang said as he watched Naruto pull the sand spike out of his shoulder. Naruto growled, but he was thankful he had a fast healing factor. He then looked at the dry sky and growled again. If he wanted to do any of his high-level attack for lightning bending. So he did the only thing he could think of. He bent his bioelectricity into a bright ball of energy before shooting it off into the sky, where a lone cloud resided. Gaara saw this and laughed. QB sighed and said, well. This should be interesting. What? Why? Asked Katara, not understand what Naruto was doing. And why are you not up there with him? I don't feel like fighting. Was QB's simple answer. Besides, he doesn't need my help to defeat the One Tail. Now that lightning ball he shot up was to bring out his more dangerous lightning-based attacks. They saw the small cloud get a lot bigger and darker. What is first? Gaara was now wary what the ball did. Something was going in the air that was not normal for desert conditions, even at night. What are you doing? The Sandman shouted as he converted a good amount of his sand into spears and sent them at the blonde. Naruto's eyes, which seemed to emit sparks of lightning, glowed with mirth in this new darkness as he backflipped into the air before he used his claws to slash the spears to pieces while lightning arced from his body to his claws and then into the air, creating a brilliant lightning show. He then used the lightning to shoot off towards Gaara, intending on impaling him. But the sand user was prepared, albeit barely. While floating on his sand platform, the surrounding sand moved in on him to protect the red head from the lightning. The sand turned to glass before falling to the ground. Shukaku, who had wide eyes, said, I think we should combine. No. Said a voice behind them. The duo whirled around on their sand platform to see Naruto, using gravity bending, to float in the air. The blonde held out a hand and shot a blast of dense gravity at Gaara. It was pretty powerful as it knocked Gaara off his feet, sending him to the ground, but the sand that Shukaku was controlling caught him. Naruto looked to the clouds to see that they were not yet ready. So he did the next best thing. He channeled lightning to his fingers and held them like Goku does to get ready for his attack. Naruto then spun in place before releasing the spun and pent-up energy. The result was a large tornado made of lightning. Take my ionic vortex. The vortex ripped through all the sand before it spun Gaara around and then threw him into a sand dune. Gaara got back up and stared at Naruto with a cracked face before all the sand on his fell off. "You're very interesting, Uzumaki." Gaara just nodded to Shukaku before the small creature disappeared into his chest. Gaara then closed and opened his eyes to reveal the stared eyes of the Shukaku. "Now I am in control." With that, Gaara's body floated into the air as well as a lot of sand before it converged on him, forming a sphere of sand before more sand came to form the raccoon's giant body, creating terrifying sight to those watching. Naruto glared heatedly. This is not what he wanted. Glancing at the sphere around Toph was getting smaller and then meant he needed to hurry up. However, he could not think much because Shukaku and banged on his stomach, sending out his drilling air bullet that made Aang's eyes widen. Naruto glared at it before he brought his hand down in a chopping motion, sending condensed gravity at the air ball to slice it in half, sending each piece to his side. However, the wave kept on traveling and sliced off the sand head of Shukaku. "Okay. Now I am mad." A voice rang out before the head reconstructed itself. The face smirked before saying, "I will enjoy killing you." He shouted before shooting off 5 more of those drilling air bullets, but Naruto used gravity bending to jump high in the air and keep on climbing to dodge the attacks. Naruto saw that the clouds were ready, so he let them loose. The group's eyes widened as lightning begun to dance violently across the sky. "Ooh-oh. Shiny lights." Sokka randomly shouted. "You dare to kill me and kill my friends." Naruto's voice rang out. "I cannot allow this." Naruto looked up at all the lightning and smirked. "All this power that bring this lightning down from the lightning from the heaven and I am just directing it." Began with a roar of thunder. The blonde shot a bolt of lightning to the clouds, which brought down a large Chinese-style dragon that circled the sand demon before rising back into the clouds and gave the sand demon a menacing glare. Mother Fu Shukaku screamed out before he was cut off by a large roar and everything around Shukaku went up in a brilliant flash. The gang had to cover their eyes because it was too bright for them. They did notice that a construct holding Toph began to fall apart. Using quick thinking, Aang used his airbending skills to bring Toph safely to them. They were surprised that Toph had tears in her eyes, but they said nothing. "Is he okay?" Toph weakly asked. "Yeah, I think so," Katara said. He used some huge lightning attack to bring the guy down. However, when the dust cleared, they gasped at the new sight in front of them. The land had gone from sand to glass, and most of Shukaku's sand body was glass as well. The only thing that was not fully glass was the sphere that held Gaara's body. The sphere was singed and cracked all over, and Gaara pushed a piece off so that he could get out. If one looked close enough, Gaara had 2 different eyes. His own and Shukaku's. He suddenly looked up and saw Naruto coming for him. "I win." When Naruto shouted that, he sucker punched Gaara, forcing Shukaku out of Gaara. They landed a few feet away on the glass painfully. Gaara looked up when he heard tapping and saw Naruto slowly walking towards him. "No. No. Get away. My existence will not be erased." Naruto looked tiredly at his red-haired opponent. That attack Kirin was usually a widespread attack that used against the Fire Nation when he could not use his golden fox form. It usually drained a lot out of him and usually killed Fire Nation soldiers, so they could not get word out that he used lightning. So it was extra straining to keep all that power to one spot and not let it get to his friends, especially Toph. "Shut up," Naruto said weakly. "I am not going to kill you. I just proved that my way is better. I know the pain you went through, all Jinchuriki know that pain. I choose to go my way and you yours." "I see." Gaara said after a minute with calm and dead voice. "Yet I have no one to protect. You have me, I am willing to be your friend. And the fact that you still have family back in the past helps as well." Naruto replied. "When you get well enough, look for the ruins of your village and you will see what I mean. After that, come look for me and the others. I am sure the other would like to screw over the ring-eyed man as well." "Very well." Gaara replied before he fell asleep, glad that his demon was not in him anymore. Naruto sighed as he trudged back over to his group and said, "Well, that was tiring. I'll say." Aang shouted. "That last attack was insane. Such pretty lights." Sokka said with a goofy smile. "You are a real powerful bender." Katara was put off by that, remembering the fortune teller's words. "Yeah. It was amazing." "I am glad," Naruto said with a tired smile. "If Toph okay?" "Of course I am." Toph shouted as she gave him a big huge, which he returned forcefully. Katara smiled at that, but she said, "Come on, we still have to get out of here," she said before she took Toph's hand and made the others do the same as they made their way through the desert, even though they were all tired. The gang had walked for quite some time thanks to Katara, but it was now night time and the gang was dead tired, even the water tribe girl. "I think we should stop for the night." The rest of them groaned before falling over on the sand. Toph looked up at Katara and asked, "Is there any more water left?" "This is the last of it." Everyone can have a little drink. Katara said as she walked over to them and uncorked her water bag. Bringing the water into the air, they were surprised when Momo went after it and slashed the last of it on the ground. Momo, no. You've killed us all. Sokka screamed while clutching his head in panic. No, hasn't. Katara said as he used her water bending to pull it out of the sand to give it to the others. Ooh, right. Bending. DSK, drugged up drama queen. QB said while heaving a sigh. Katara ignored the fox and turned her attention to her brother again after she gave the water to Toph and Naruto. Sokka, let me see what you got from the library. What? Sokka shouted and he back up from in a panic, the juice still in effect, making him like this. I didn't steal anything. His gaze went to the bag his was clutching, then to Momo, and he freaked out again. It was you. You ratted me out. That made Momo hold his face and look like he was crying. And just when I thought the fool couldn't get any dumber. QB drawled, making Toph and Naruto snicker. Sokka. Katara said tiredly. I was there. She then took the bag away from him, making him look stupid. Well, stupider. It doesn't matter. Aang said bitterly. None of those will tell us where Appa is. This made Naruto look at his traveling companion with sympathy. Something that Toph could practically feel on the boy. She was have to ask him about that later. No, but we can find out where Ba Sing Se is. Katara said as he took out a scroll that had the constellations on it. We can use the stars to guide us, that way we can travel at night when it is cool and rest during the day. She looked back at her group and found them asleep already, and that made her sigh. Just try to get some sleep, we'll start again in a few hours. An hour later, Katara was asleep as well. Naruto chose this time to see if Aang was asleep. Aang, you awake? Yeah. The Avatar said sadly. I can't sleep. I figured as much and I should have said something sooner. What do you mean? Aang asked. In my travels, I have been to the Oasis before and I know that is a place for mercs and hunters. Those sandbenders are prime example. So wait, you have been in the desert before? Hell no. Naruto shot back. I went far as the Oasis and then went around. I was not crazy enough to through it. He paused before saying. While I was there, I always heard the benders blab about getting new stuff and then selling it to someone in Ba Sing Se. So what I am trying to say is that your best bet in finding Appa is to go where we were going anyway. Aang seemed to think on this for a while before he turned his head to the blonde. Thanks, Naruto. It is no problem, Aang. Hey, it sounds like you lost someone too. Aang said, picking on Naruto's tone. Yeah, a long time ago. You think you will ever find them? No, Naruto said sadly. Well, you lost Appa to hunters. I lost part of my family to the Fire Nation forever. Aang was shocked to hear that. It seemed like a bitter subject to the blonde and he was about to ask more when Naruto spoke again. Get some sleep, Aang, I'll tell you about it later. Aang nodded before rolling over, his mind questioning what had happened to Naruto and where Appa was. A few hours later, Katara begun to wake them up. She looked to Sokka and saw Momo trying to bury him. Come on, we need to get up. She said. Toph rose while smacking her lips. Yesterday my mouth tasted like mud, now it tastes like sand. I thought I would never miss the taste of mud so much. While Katara went to wake up Aang, Toph went to Naruto. She could not see him, but he was sprawled out on the sand, snoring and drooling. Come on, blonde, let's get up. Naruto didn't even move, he just kept on snoring while mumbling in his sleep, not so fast ladies. One. At a time. You lol. Have chance to at the kissing booth with me. This annoyed Toph to no end. She did not know why, but it just did and she decided to give him a painful wake-up call. She stomped right on his balls. Ewich. He screamed in a high-pitched voice, making QB, who had been watching, roll around on the sand, laughing his tails off. Oh, that was rich, Toph. The small fox said in between breaths. Naruto looked up at Toph with tears in his eyes, not that she could see them of course. What was that for? I had to get you up somehow. Toph said with a smirk. Besides, it didn't seem like you were having that good of dream anyway. Naruto grumbled something inaudible under his breath as Sokka and QB snickered. That was when Aang spotted a cloud that resembled Appa. Forgetting Naruto's words for the moment, hoping that Appa had escaped his captors, he shouted, Appa. Appa? Asked Sokka, who was still drugged up from the cactus juice. He looked up while rubbing Momo's tail on his face and saying, why would Princess you need him? She's the moon. She flies by herself. I am surrounded by idiots. QB said with a deadpan expression. That was when Aang saw the moonlight touch the figure and it turned out to be just a cloud. Naruto slowly got up after nursing his Pakage and put a comforting hand on Aang's shoulder. Katara sighed while saying, it's just a cloud. Her eyes then lit up. Wait. A cloud. Aang, fly up and bend the water into my pouch. Aang looked at her with an angry look before he did what she said. A few minutes later, he was back, but wow, there is hardly any water. Katara said as he looked in the water pouch. I'm sorry, okay? Aang shouted angrily. It's a desert cloud, I did all I could. What's anyone else doing? What are you doing? He pointed to the water tribe girl. Trying to keep everyone together. Katara said softly to herself as she pulled out the star map. Let's just get moving, we need to head in this direction. She then begun to walk away from them, hoping they would follow. Naruto, albeit awkwardly, hobbled over to her and said while putting a hand on her shoulder, you are doing a good job of that by the way, you need to let Aang ride this out. Katara blushed a bit, not that anyone could see it in this dark. Thanks, but it is hard. I know. Naruto said as he walked alongside her before he backpedaled to Toph's side. Meow, that boy is good with the ladies, not that he know that. A bluish-purple cat purred out with a smile on the shoulder of a blonde-haired girl. PCH who knows? The blonde female replied. The cat smirked at her companion. You know, after that display of power and his good nature, I think we have found the perfect mate for you, kitten. Not this again. The girl growled. He is too young for me. Oh, I don't think that, the cat said slyly. That jutsu messed with you. It made you younger and well, need I say more? No. Oh come on kitten. I can see the way you look at that bod. That kid is fit to all sorts of things. Meow. Nibi. Please stop the perverseness. The girl begged her partner. Besides we still have capture him. Oh that is the problem Yujito-chan. Nibi replied. After that small display of power against the Shukaku, I think we really don't need to capture him. I am sure you heard that conversation with your enhanced hearing. Of course. Then I suggest we help him. That Fass will not get the last laugh. The cat replied. Fine, but let's observe for now before we decide to do anything. Oh? So you can ogle him some more? Nibi. The young cloud ninja shouted with a blush, making the cat laugh. Hey, you guys hear someone shouting? Naruto asked as they walked. No. I didn't ow. Crud. Toph shouted as she tripped on something. I am so sick of not feeling where I am going. And what idiot buried a boat in the middle of the desert? A boat? Katara asked, walking up to it. Believe me, I kicked it hard enough to feel plenty of vibrations. Toph growled out. Here, let me help with that. Naruto said as he bent down to help Toph. He enveloped his hands in chakra before rubbing her foot, making the pain go away faster. Katara smiled at that before Aang walked up to the boat and used his air bending to blow away the sand, revealing the boat. While Toph got back up, she silently thanks her friend. Katara climbed on top of the boat and said, it's one those glides the sand benders use and look, it's got some sort of compass on it. I bet it could point us out of here. She then tapped it to make sure it was working. Aang, you can bend a breeze so we can sail it. We're going to make it. I don't know about that. QP growled. It seemed that while they all were distracted, Sokka had half buried the fox and Momo. You know, there is a joke in there somewhere about this, I just can't think of it. Naruto said while scratching his head with the fox growled in anger. It was still night time and that was okay with the small group. They had a better time traveling anyway and it was nice and cool out, especially traveling at the speeds they were on the sand glider. The needle on this compass doesn't seem to be pointing north according to my charts. Katara voiced her concern. Take it easy little lady. Sokka said, still in his loopy state as he held Momo's tail, who was floating in the air thanks to the speed they were going. I'm sure the sand folks who built this baby know how to get around here. She just glared at her brother until she looked ahead again and saw a large rock-like structure in the distance and the compass was point right to it. That's what the compass is pointing to. That giant rock must be the magnetic center of this desert. She shouted happily. A rock? Yes. Toph shouted while pumping her fist, making the blonde smile. Maybe we find some water there. Katara said. And some shade. Naruto said lazily. Maybe we can find some sand benders. Aang growled. When they got to the rock, the sun was not on the horizon, signaling that daylight was approaching. From atop the giant rock, the gang looked out onto the rising sun. Well, except for Toph, a solid rock. She said as she fell on the rock and made a rock angel. After that they decided to explore the caves on this odd rock. Sokka breathed in heavily and said, I think my head is starting to clear out the cactus juice. Oh good. QB said as he jumped on the boy's head. Now it just needs to clear out the stupid. Ha. Why you? Sokka as he about to hit the fox before his eyes cut to the strange honey-like substance on the walls. Oh look. He said as he grabbed some of it and ate it, but it was nasty and tried to spit it out. Ah. Tastes like rotten penguin meat. He then hunched over and said, I feel woozy. You have hallucinating on cactus juice all day and then you just lick something you find stuck to the wall of a cave. Katara screamed at her brother. QB jumped to her shoulder and said, it is like I keep saying, he is an idiot. No, I just have a natural curiosity, Sokka said weakly. You need to learn how to control that. Naruto said while patting him on the back, but it was too hard and the water tribe boy fell face first on the ground, making the fox laugh. Toph spoke up at the point and said, I don't think this is a normal cave, this was carved by something. That made the group quiet down before Aang said, yeah, look at the shape. There is something buzzing in here. Toph said. Something that's coming for us. Naruto quirked an eyebrow before his eyes widened. Buzzing usually meant bees, and in this time, animals are usually bigger. Crap. Get out of the cave. Not bothering to question the blonde, they heeded his warning and ran like their lives depended on it. And it was a good thing they did because many huge wasp-like creatures shot out of the cave as soon as they got out. Damn, worse than bees. Giant wasps. Naruto shouted. The blonde lifted a boulder and tried to hit one of them, but it quickly moved out of the way, however, it got in the way of one of Aang's bending bursts. One of them landed on a nearby outcropping of rock, which all Toph needed. She launched the rock high in the air, knocked the thing away from them. When she blindly tried to do it again, it missed the one Sokka was fighting and landed dangerously close to the water tribe boy. What are you doing? Sokka yelled while throwing his arms in the air. That rock almost crushed me. Sorry, I can't tell where they are in the air. Toph defended herself. Oh, I got this one. Sokka suddenly said before running to the edge and wildly swing his machete at. Nothing. There is nothing there. Katara shouted to her brother. Huh? He said looking around. He didn't see the large one coming at him from behind him until it was too late. However, QB jumped in the way yelling. Someone order an extra crispy bug. The fox then bent some weak fire and burned off its wings, making it crash to the ground. Well, your order is up. Heh, I ordered well done, not medium. Naruto shouted as she sent a bolt of lightning at it, sending the thing flying away from them at high speeds while smoking. While that was going, Katara was in trouble. We have to get out of here. I'm completely out of water to bend. Then one of the giant wasps swooped down and captured Momo before carrying him off to the desert. Momo. Aang shouted, I am not losing anyone else out here. He then used his glider to fly off after his little friend. Katara turned to the others and said, come on, we're going down. She then processed to guide them down the rock via a small outcropping path. When some of the wasps came down to them, she ordered Toph to shoot a rock his arm was pointing to. Using the earth to see where, she blindly shot one and hit the beast, bringing it down. Naruto used a combination of earth and lightning to shoot down the ones near him and Sokka. This went on for a few more minutes, and when Naruto saw that Aang almost had his furry friend, he said, alright, enough is enough. Toph, use earth bending to make sure you guys are stuck to the rock, I am ending this. With what? My ionic vortex. So close to us? Katara asked, concerned. Yeah, that is why I asked Toph to plant you guys in the ground. Okay, I'll do it. Toph said as she used her earth bending to bind Sokka and Katara to the ground by their feet. When she was down with herself, she said, okay, we're good. Okay, hold on tight because it is going to be windy. Naruto shouted while QB held on tight to him. He went through the swirling motion before he threw the energy out into the air, creating another of his lightning tornadoes, which begun to suck in all the bugs and a lot of sand. A strand of lightning shot out and hit right underneath the group. That created the perfect image for Toph, and she was impressed by it. Aang, who had gotten Momo back, kept a good distance from the vortex so that they would not get sucked in. When it died down, he saw that all the bugs were now trapped on large amounts of glass. Oh, nice glass work. Very original. QB said snarky like a rich person would. However, there were still some pouring out of the stone hive, and Naruto growled menacingly before the sand rose up and captured all the creatures, making the gang blink stupidly. Aang then asked, sandbenders. Or Gaara? Naruto asked. When the dust kicked up by the rising sand cleared, it was revealed that sandbenders had helped them. Those guys did not look happy. A bearded guy looked at them and asked, what are you doing in our land with a sandbender sailor? From the looks of it, you stole it from the Humi tribe. We found the sailor abandoned in the desert. Katara quickly said. We're traveling with the Avatar. At this the old leader raised his eyebrows. Our bison was stolen and we have to get to Ba Sing Se. The younger sandbender scowled and said brashly. However, his voice was very familiar to Toph. You dare accuse our people of theft, will you ride in on a stolen sand sailor? White Gashwin. The old man commanded. No one accused anyone of anything. If what they say is true, we must give them hospitality. Sorry, father. Toph widened her eyes and said, I recognize the son's voice. He's the one who stole Appa. Naruto cut his eyes to Aang, who was already on a hair trigger because of losing Appa, and he could already tell that this was going to end badly. Are you sure? Katara asked the other girl. Yeah, I never forget a voice. Toph replied, and while Naruto inwardly groaned. Yep, the sandbenders are screwed. You stole Appa. Ong shouted as he pointed his staff at the sun. Where is he? What did you do to him? The sun panicked and said, they're lying. They're the thieves. Are you sure about that? Naruto said with his arms crossed as Ong freaked out and used his wind bending to destroy one of their sand sailors. Ong glared at them and shouted. Where is my bison? You tell me where he is now. Ong then destroyed a few other sailors. I would do as he says. Besides, you screwed yourself by opening your mouth. My friend has excellent hearing and never forgets a voice. Naruto said with a menacing glare at the son and his father. What did you do? The father asked. It wasn't me. The son replied. You said to put a muscle on him. Toph voiced. You muscled Appa. Ong went ballistic as he begun to transform into the Avatar state and destroyed some more sailors. I'm sorry. The son begged, I didn't know it belonged to the Avatar. Are you sure about that? Asked Naruto, you didn't seem to care that much when you tried to steal him the first time. What are you talking about? The son fearfully asked. You may have had your face covered, but your chakra signature is the same. Tell me where Appa is. The Avatar demanded. I traded him to some merchants. The son replied fearfully. He's probably in Ba Sing Se by now. They were going to sell him there. Naruto shook his head, he hated it when he was right sometimes. Please, we'll escort you out of the desert. We'll help however we can. Time to get out of the way. Naruto said as he and Sokka lead Toph away from the future blast zone. Ong was getting angrier with each word and the wind around him was getting stronger. However, Katara stood by his side and when became too much, she held his wrist, stopping him from doing something stupid. The Avatar glared at her, but she just stared sadly back at him until he was calm again and embraced him in a hug, with the Avatar crying. All the while, Naruto had his arms crossed with his eyes closed. Fools. His only word to the sandbenders. Meow. Now that was another display of power from the boy and this Avatar kid. Nibi said excitedly. Indeed. Yujito said before she turned her back and walked further into the desert. Oh, and where are you going? The cat asked. To that Gara kid. I have a feeling we will be working together soon. Ooh-oh. Nibi said with a knowing smirk. But get the Sandman before anyone else does or you won't get his sand in your pants. Yujito just sighed with a blush. Sometimes Nibi was too much and she liked it better when she could block the perverseness out. Now. She is constantly tortured by it. A few hours later the blonde from Cloud found the redhead. Gara took one look at her and said, have you seen him? Yes, they are headed out of the desert. I see. Gara said before walking away. Hey. Where are you going? To the ruins of the sand village. He replied with his usual monotone. Yujito sighed before quickly following him. The gang, thanks to the idiot sandbenders, was able to make their way out of the desert, which Naruto was overjoyed about because he hated the desert heat with a passion. After that, Ong changed a bit. He became cold, fearing what he almost did in the desert, he made himself not feel much of anything, and that worried not only Katara, but Naruto as well, because he was not sure if he acted like that when he lost that caravan. Also, Naruto had managed to open the final scroll with that small piece of paper and some of his own chakra. He could not believe how easy it was because he had tried a lot of things to try and open the thing. Afterwards, he took a look inside the scroll to find that it was actually the combined forbidden scroll for each of the old villages and that a man named Iruka was the one who did it. Whoever finds this scroll, take good care of it because this is one of the last thing connected to our time. The Akatsuki have nearly won thanks to their new revealed true leader, and we thought that Pain was evil, Madara is even worse. If only that kid was still around, I think we might have had a chance because I never hated him. Naruto felt sorry for his old village, but what's done is done. He was here now and he could make a difference in this time. So after that, he looked through the jutsu to find a lot of earth jutsu that he was not impressed with. Hell, he and Toph could do most of those with normal earth bending. However, the lightning jutsu really caught his eye, and Sokka learned the hard way how powerful they were when he dispelled one of his lightning clones. The boy had to be dragged most of the way with QB constantly making fun of the water tribe boy. Currently, the gang was resting near a small spring with waterfall. Sokka was currently looking over a map he had acquired from the spirit library on a large rock while Toph was splashing her feet in the water. An was swimming in the water before he did some water bending, freezing the water around him, trapping in the ice. If Toph could see that, she would have laughed her ass off. Her gaze went to the two animals. Momo hopped around like he usually did while QB was resting next to Sokka. Despite the fox always calling the water tribe boy an idiot, the two got along well. She then switched her attention to Katara, who was on top of the waterfall. The water tribe girl laughed happily before she hopped off the edge, screaming out, water bending bomb. The resulting splash drove mostly all the water out of the small pond, drenching Toph, Sokka, and the animals. Aang, who has been in the ice, was thrown out of the water, making the ice break off of him. It all made them laugh, well except for Sokka. Sure, 5,000-year-old maps from the spirit library, just splash some water on them. The water tribe boy sarcastically said as he held them up. Katara smiled sheepishly before she used her water bending skills to take the water of the map. Sorry, she said, wringing out her hair. Before they could do anything else, they heard the loud chirping of 1,000 birds. Turning their attention to the fifth human of the group, they saw Toph's oldest friend and crush, Naruto. Surprisingly, Katara also had gained a crush on the boy, but since he was oblivious to it, Aang said nothing because he too liked the water tribe girl. What they saw made their jaws drop, well, except for Toph. The blonde's right hand was covered in violent sparking lightning that was emitting that high-pitched noise. He smirked, sure he liked the attention he was getting, he was more happy that he got the thing working. It seemed that while trying to use chakra for it, it was harder to use, so he used lightning bending to do it, and it finally worked after the umpteenth time. They ran forward at high speeds thanks to the effects of the attack and dove into a large boulder, cutting it cleanly in half before it exploded in his face. Ugh. Still needs work. He weakly said before Toph came over to help him up. I'll say. Toph said with snicker, but she was worried for him. Yeah. But I think I can do it. Naruto said as she helped him over to the others. But you know, this has sparked another attack I could probably try and create it. Sokka was chuckling at that because of the explosion. Naruto gained another attack idea. Okay, and what has this idea sparked? Well, I figured that if the ionic energy and lightning can create my ionic vortex in the Kirin, I plan on coming in with chakra. What is that going to do? Asked Aang. Take my Rasengan to the next level. Stated the blonde. Getting confused looks, he chuckled. Heh, I guess I have not used that attack around you guys yet. Here, let me show you. He created a small ball of spinning energy that instantly reminded Aang of his air scooter. With one move, he plunged that sphere into a nearby rock, completely destroying it. When he looked back, he saw that they all had gobsmacked expressions. Sokka recovered first and said, and you want to make that to a new level. Of course, Naruto said with a smile. If I want to help Aang protect and fight with you guys, I want to get stronger. The gang smiled at that with girls blushing a bit at the sincerity in his voice. Seeing this, Aang quickly tried to change the subject. So Sokka, did you figure out which route we are going to take? Okay, we just got out of the desert, so we must be around here. Sokka said, pointing to a part of land on the map. We need to go to Ba Sing Se, which is here. It looks like the only passage connecting the south to the north is this sliver of land called the Serpent's Pass. You're sure that's the best way to go? Toph asked with crossed arms. Naruto rolled his eyes. Sokka, I don't think you are ready to go there. It's the only way. I mean, it is not like we have Appa to fly us there. He said nonchalantly. Shush up about Appa. Katara said with a frown. Can't you at least try to be sensitive? They looked to Aang, who just looked at them with a deadpan expression. Katara, it is okay. Naruto inwardly sighed. He knew that Aang was still hurting, but the boy was just hiding behind an emotionless facade. Still Aang continued, I know I was upset about losing Appa before, but I just want to focus on getting to Ba Sing Se and telling the Earth King about the solar eclipse. Oh. Katara said a little shocked. Well, okay. I'm glad you are going better. Then to Ba Sing Se we go, no more distractions. Sokka said as he rolled up the map. Hello there, fellow refugees. A happy male voice called out to them. The gang turned to see a small family walking towards them. They wore Earth Kingdom clothes, which was no surprise to them. The man was a happy guy as he was the one who called out to them, while waving. His wife seemed to be pregnant and his daughter looked to be a nice person with her smile. She was probably in her late teens as well. However, when she saw Naruto, she blushed, not that they could see from this distance. So are you guys headed to Ba Sing Se too? Asked Aang. Sure are. The man said before he put a hand on his wife's shoulder, we are trying to get there before my wife Ying has her baby. Great. Katara said. We can travel through the Serpent's Pass together. The Serpent's Pass. Ying said with her whole family having a freaked out expression. Only the truly desperate take that deadly route. Deadly route? Toph muttered before she punched in the side of the arm, sending him on the ground. Great pick, Sokka. Well, we are desperate. Sokka said as he got back up and rubbed his arms. You should come with us to Full Moon Bay. The man said. Ferries take refugees across the lake. It's the fastest way to Ba Sing Se. And it's hidden, so the Fire Nation can't find it. Ying added. Peaceful ferry rider deadly pass. Katara said sarcastically while her brother gave her a dirty look. With that, the group made their decision, heading for Full Moon Bay. While on their way, QB snoozed on Naruto's head as he walked next to Toph and the others. The teen girl that was traveling with the couple made her way next to the blonde. Hi, I am Lin, Ton's sister. Oh, I am Naruto. The blonde said with a smile, making her blush. You know, I thought you were also their kid. Lin laughed, happy that he thought that she was that young. Even though she was only a few years older than him. No, I am just his younger sister. Well, it is nice to know he has such a cute sister. Naruto commented with a smile, which made her giggle and blush. The mood for the group changed at that. Ton's eyebrow twitched. He was a brother after all. His wife just laughed. Aang and Sokka shook their heads. They had forgotten that he blonde was flirty, but they did think it was funny. Toph and Katara, however, were not amused. Katara narrowed her eyes and put a frown on her face, not that anyone saw it. Toph growled a bit, scaring Sokka as she too narrowed her eyes. Sokka and Aang looked at each other in worry. Things might turn bad. Lin, however, continued. You know, you didn't seem all that bothered when Ying mentioned that the Serpent's Pass was dangerous. That's because I have been there before. Naruto said. What? Why didn't you say anything? Sokka shouted. You didn't ask. Was the simple response that made them all sweat drop. What was it like? Lin asked. Let's just say there is a reason they call it the Serpent's Pass. Once they were there, Naruto noticed that the inside of the cave-like bay was huge and there were a lot of refugees trying to get into Ba Sing Se by way of ferry. I can't believe how many people's lives have been uprooted by the Fire Nation. Katar said in awe. We are all looking for a better life. Safe behind the walls of Ba Sing Se. Ton replied as they watched one of the boats take off. Iroh was on the boat with Prince Zuko. He looked onto the horizon and said, who would have thought that after all these years, I would return to the place of my great military disgrace as tourist. He then put in a straw hat as grinned at his nephew. Look around, we're not tourists. We're refugees. Zuko grumbled as he drank some of the slop they had given in a bowl. It was so nasty that he was gagging every time he took a sip. I am sick of eating rotten food, sleeping in the dirt. I am tired of living like this. Aren't we all? A voice said next to them. Zuko turned his head to see a dark-skinned teen in strange armor and some sort of wheat plant stuck in his mouth. My name's Jet and these are my freedom fighters, Longshot and Smeller B. The two odd teens nodded to the banished prince, not actually knowing who he was. Hello. Zuko said in his usual sad monotone. Here's the deal. Jet continued. I hear the captain's eating like a king while us refugees have feed off his scraps. Doesn't seem fair, does it? What sort of king he eating like? Iroh asked in curiosity. The fat happy kind. Jet replied, making the old man salivate. You want to help us liberate some food? Zuko looked to his bowl as he thought about it and many other things. Since he was not going after the Avatar at the moment, he could use his skills to help this Jet person out. Besides, if he went after the Avatar now, he was not sure if he would survive with the infamous Golden Fox helping the kid out. He was not stupid, even he and his crew knew about him. Now who he was, but what he had done. Closing his eyes, he snapped them pen before he threw the bowl of slop into the water. I'm in. I told you already. No vegetables on the ferry. A cranky old woman, who was in charge of sending people on the ferry, screamed at a younger man. One cabbage slug could destroy the entire ecosystem of Ba Sing Se. Security. With that, a bear-like creature came up and destroyed the small cart of cabbages. Ah. My cabbages. A poor man shouted as he was hauled off. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this. He felt like he had met that man before. He had accidentally destroyed that cart in one of the Earth Kingdom cities. He then saw the crazy cabbage man again when the gang he was traveling with were running for pirates. Small world. Next. Aang walked up to the old crone's podium and said, 5 tickets for the ferry to Ba Sing Se please. Passports. No one told us that we had to have passports. Aang said, a bit confused. Don't you know who this is? He's the Avatar. Sokka interjected. I see 50 avatars a day and by the way, it is not a very impressive costume. The old crone said as she pointed to a group of wannabe Aangs. The young airbender looked at the group before smiling. Someone has a fan club. Naruto said with a chuckle. Besides, no animals allowed. She barked while looking to Momo and QB. Do I need to call security? She was referring to the bear-like creature that was still mauling the cabbages. That won't be necessary. Aang said with his hands up in defense while Momo hid behind his shirt. Next. I'll take care of this. Toph said as she passed Aang. She put a piece of paper on the old crone's podium that had her family seal on it. My name is Toph Bifrong and I'll need 5 tickets. Oh. The golden seal of the fly boar. The old hag said in awe. It is my pleasure to help anyone of the Bifrong family. It is your pleasure. Toph said a bit arrogantly. As you can see I am blind and these 3 imbeciles are my veils and the yellow-haired one is my personal servant. But the animals. Are my seeing eye lemur and fox. My lemur gets distracted sometimes, so I have my fox to help me. During that conversation, Momo had jumped onto Toph's shoulder while QB jumped onto her head. He was so tempted to saying something just to freak out the old hag. Well, normally it is only 1 ticket per passport, but this document is so official. I guess it worth 5 tickets. She said before she stamped all 5 before Toph took them. Thank you very much. Toph said before she passed the tickets to her friends. Katara made her way next to the blind girl as they walked away. What was that about Naruto being your personal servant? Naruto decided to answer that for her since both Aang and Sokka were interested in knowing as well. It is because I was when we were younger. However, the term servant is used very loosely. Why is that? Sokka asked. Because he didn't do much of anything to serve me. I requested it so that I could have a friend around all the time. Toph said with a smile. Fun times. Very. The blonde smiled as well, reminiscing. That just made the others smile as well. Well anyway, Sokka began. We scammed that lady good. However, a hand grabbed the back of his shirt, pulling him back. Tickets and passports please. A serious-looking girl asked with her hand out waiting for the said items. She was dressed in a sort of guard-like costume. Is there a problem? Sokka asked, hoping there wasn't. Yeah. I got a problem with you. She said, pointing at his chest, making the boy nervous. I've seen your type before. Probably sarcastic, think you hilarious, and let me guess, you're traveling with that avatar. Do I know you? Sokka asked. You don't remember? Maybe you remember this. The girl said before she kissed him on the cheek. The Water Tribe boy instantly remembered. Suki. He cheered as he hugged the girl. Sokka, it is good to see you. She said happily. Why my Sokka? Naruto teased, I didn't know you were familiar with this beauty. Oh shut it Naruto. Sokka shouted with a pint tint to his face that made both the girl and his friend laugh before patting him on the back, going back to Aang and the others. The group moved their small reunion to a small terrace-like structure near the water. You look so different without your makeup and the new outfit. Katara observed as she sat on a bench. That crabby lady makes all the security guards wear them. Suki replied. And look at you sleeveless guy, been working out. Sokka put on a goofy smile as he spins his arm around. I'll grab a tree branch and do a few chin touches every once in a while. Nothing major. This made Katara look at her brother with a deadpan expression. Are the other Kaioshin warriors around? Asked Aang. Yeah. After you left Kaioshin, we wanted to find a way to help people. We ended up escorting some refugees and we have been here ever since. Suki said before Momo jumped onto the railing she was leaning on to say hi. Hi Momo. Good to see you too. Her gaze then went to the blonde of the group and she finally recognized the clothes he was wearing. Good to see you again Golden Fox. Glad to see you have lightened up some. Naruto laughed. That I have. Wait, you know Naruto? Sokka asked with a surprised look on his face that was similar to the others' reactions. Yep, we met a few years ago when the Fire Nation tried to attack our village. He came and quickly demolished the remaining Fire Nation soldiers that we missed. It was quite a display of power. Suki said. Wait, what do you mean, lightened up? Toph asked. As far as I know, he has always been a happy person. Well, when we met he had a look in his eyes that reminded me of a person hell-bent on revenge. Suki replied, shocking the group. I'll tell you guys later. Naruto replied. Yeah, it is not that great of story anyway. QB said in a lazy tone atop Toph's head, but she could tell the fox was lying. Good to see you too Caillou. Suki said with a smile. Likewise paint face. QB laughed, making the girl's eyebrow twitch. Yep, same old QB. Suki then switched the topic seeing that Naruto was a bit uncomfortable. So why are you getting tickets for the ferry? Wouldn't you just fly across on Appa? The group went silent at that with sad looks. This worried Suki as Katara said, Appa is missing. We hope find him in Ba Sing Se. So sorry to hear that. Suki said before she turned to Aang and asked, are you doing okay? Aang looked at the group who had sad looks on their faces as they stared at him. That made him a bit angry. I am doing fine. Would everybody stop worrying about me? Avatar Aang. Cried Ying from down below with all the other refugees. You have to help us. Someone took all of our belongings. Our passports, our tickets, everything is gone. I'll talk to the lady for you. Replied Aang. No passports, no tickets. The old crone screamed as he stamped Aang on the forehead. But she is pregnant and all their stuff was stolen. You have to make an exception Aang argued. No exceptions. If just gave away tickets willy-nilly to anyone, there would be no more order. And you know what that means. No more civilization. What if we gave them our tickets? Aang asked. No. But. Next. The old crone spat in his face literally. QB had enough of this old hag. He jumped from Toph's head to the old crone's podium and spoke. You know, normally I am the cold heartless one, but you just take the cake. You really need to lighten up. The lady just stared at the multi-tailed fox in shock like a lot of other people did before she screamed and fell on her back, making the fox laugh. Oh man, that never gets old. Aang smiled gratefully at him before he turned back to the family. Don't worry, you get to the city safely, I'll lead you through the Serpent's Pass. Aang declared. Naruto smiled as he put a hand on the boy's shoulder. And since I have been there before, I will do my best to help. Besides, with the Avatar and the Golden Fox on your side, not much could go wrong. At that last statement, the small family, along with anyone else who was in range to hear that, all had their jaws on the ground. However, Lin recovered first and smiled at the blonde teen. If the stories about him were true, then they had nothing to fear. As they were walking out of the cave-like bay, Sokka began his complaining. I can't believe we gave up our tickets and now we are going through the Serpent's Pass. I can't believe you're still complaining about it. Toph replied, making the blonde chuckle. I'm coming too. Suki said as she ran up to them in her Kaioshin warrior uniform. That's what she said. Naruto thought with a smirk. Are you sure that's a good idea? Sokka asked, a bit concerned for the girl. Sokka, I thought you'd want me to come. Suki replied. I do, it's just. Just what? Nothing, I'm glad you're coming. Sokka replied as she walked past him, confused by his behavior. Sokka just looked at her sadly, not wanting to lose her too. This is the Serpent's Pass? Sokka asked as he stared that rising stretch of land in front of them. I thought it would be more windy, like a serpent. Huh, I guess that misnamed it. Looks can be deceiving, Sokka. Naruto replied. Sometimes you have to look underneath the underneath. Wait, what? Sokka asked. Never mind, you find out soon enough. Naruto said. Ying went to one of the poles that held up a Chinese-like sign that stood before them. There was etching on the wooden pole. Look at this writing. How awful. What does it say? Toph asked. Katara walked right up to it and read, it says. Abandon hope. How can we abandon hope? That's all we have left. Ying cried as she held on to her husband. I don't know. Aang said. The monks used to say that hope is just a distraction. So maybe we do need to abandon it. What are you talking about? Asked Katara. Hope isn't going to get us into Ba Sing Se. Aang replied. And it's not going to find Appa. We need to focus on what we are doing right now, and that is getting across this pass. Okay. Said Katara, a bit sad at her bald friend's logic. If you say so. Naruto, how should we start? Asked Aang. Once we get to the top, get into a single file line, this path becomes a bit narrow. Naruto replied as Aang nodded before he led the group into the Serpent's Pass. Naruto made his way next to Ying and said, there is nothing wrong with holding on to hope. That writing was just to scare people. Ying smiled at the blonde before she nodded her thanks, her husband and sister-in-law smiling at him for comforting her. As they were walking, Toph was getting a bit bored, so she asked, hey Naruto. You mind telling us what happened to make you of all people all pretty? Fine. Naruto said with a sigh. He knew he was going to have to tell them eventually. This is connected to my rise as the Golden Fox, so listen up. Everyone in the group was eager to hear this story, even the small family. Suki was just curious. Toph, when I left that day, it was because I heard that a caravan was making their way to my old home, the ruins of the Konoha. Now this surprised Suki. Wait, what do you mean? Why would you live some ruins? Suki asked. We didn't live in the ruins. QB interjected. We lived in the past. That made the small family and Suki raised an eyebrow, but they believed him nonetheless because the Avatar lived in a frozen block of ice for 100 years. Anyway, while I traveled with this caravan, I became attached to them, especially their elder, who reminded me of the old man from back home. They were like a second family to me. Naruto said with a sad smile. When we reached the ruins, he said he had fulfilled his dream of seeing the origin of the Fire Nation and the old Hokage mountain. However, that happiness was not to last. After we found what we wanted, with me finding out who my parents were and finding the lightning bending style, I decided to take a nap on top of the caravan. When I woke, everyone was dead. Naruto swallowed his rage as the group gasped. Everyone except the old man, a Fire Nation soldier, was yelling him. He wanted to know why the old man and everyone else came here. He thought we were spies sent to collect info. No, we were just there to learn about the past. Yet the soldier wouldn't take that for answer. So he sent a fireball straight to his face, killing him instantly. Toph heard the rage and hurt in his voice, so backed up to him and held on to his wrist since it was clenched into a fist. She didn't see the blood. I couldn't take it, I snapped and killed those murders with lethal earthbending. Naruto spat, he was still sore about it all, even today. When I go to their leader, the one who killed the old man, we fought and I was knocked out. He left a scar on me that day, both mental and physical. QB made to get to me after that and we left our mark by transforming into the Golden Fox. Wait, you transform? Suki asked. Yes, QB and I combine. Naruto said. I am not going to transform now because it will cause too much attention. Now, when we combine, so does our bending and we created magma and encased that bastard. They all stared at the blonde in shock. The boy they were traveling with was indeed powerful. Naruto cut his eyes to Ong and saw that was shaking. Ong, I am sorry you had to heard about the killing. I figure the monks taught you not to kill. Yes. Killing is wrong. Ong said. And I agree with you. Naruto said. I don't expect you to forgive me either. There is not a day that goes by that I regret killing those men, even though they deserved it. Ong sighed. I'll forgive you, but please, don't kill any more people while you are with us. I promise. Naruto said. Toph smiled as his hand slid down to hold hands with him, ignoring the blood. Lin smiled at that. Katara saw it and felt a bit jealous, only because she was not the one to do that, however, she too smiled. She really didn't expect Toph to do that. So what brought back your happy attitude? Toph asked. Naruto gave off a sad smile as he looked to the sky. QB gave Naruto a sad look, something they all noticed, but they were not expecting the answer he was going to give them. The circus. The circus? They all asked with a large sweat drop. Yeah, but that did bring out my flirtatious personality that you all know me by now. He said, further confusing them. A little while later, they finally got over their shock and confusion to speak normally again. Katara really wondered how a circus could help the blonde get over his grief. So Toph, you and Naruto never picked a mini vacation. Is there any place you want to go to next time we do those again? Toph chuckled nervously. Well, I don't think I want to go to the circus. If I can't see Ong when he fights, I really don't think I'll enjoy it when people flip in the air where I can't see them. So right now I am not sure. Naruto chuckled at that, I really don't know either. So anywhere but the circus. He said, confusing them even more. QB, who was on Sokka's head, sighed. Poor kid. Both Ong and Sokka heard this but were completely confused. While they were walking, they saw a Fire Nation ship in the water below them. Suki decided to inform them about it. The Fire Nation controls the Western Lake. Rumor has it that they're working on something big and they don't want anyone to find out what it is. Ong just stared at the ship before moving on the path. Naruto rose an eyebrow and said, that is never a good sign. A few minutes later, the ground underneath Ton gave away and he almost fell to his death, but thanks to Toph's quick thinking, she used earthbending to save him before flipping him back to the others. I am okay. Ton said happily. However, the rocks that gave away plunged into the water below and alerted that Fire Nation boat that was nearby. Sokka narrowed his eyes at it before he yelled, they spotted us. Let's go. Let's go. Ong used airbending to jump off the cliff as the boat launched a fireball. He used airbending blow away the fiery projectile. However, they launched two more, with one hitting right above Suki. Boulders began to fall on top of her, but Sokka pushed her out of the way, but they never got to him because Toph used earthbending to create a ramp, letting them harmlessly fall to the waters below. Are you okay? Sokka asked, very concerned for the girl. You have to be more careful. Come on. They then ran to a curve in the pass, completely hidden. Thanks for saving my life, Toph. Hey, no problem, Sokka. Toph grumbled. Naruto put a hand on the girl's shoulder and said, you did good. Thanks. The Earth girl said grateful with a small blush. Naruto then cut his eyes to the boat which launched another rock at them. As if that worked, because only one hit near them last time, however this one was coming right to them. Naruto narrowed his eyes before he sent off a bolt of lightning to completely destroy the fiery projectile. If it shocked the firebenders on the boat, the duo didn't see it because they quickly got out of there. If they had stayed a bit longer, they would have noticed the sea suddenly swallow up the boat and a teen in green clothing looking at where they were. It was now almost night time and they still had quite a ways to go, so Naruto told them it was time to rest, which they all seemed happy about as they found a small clearing and made a campfire. While Ton was rubbing the feet of his pregnant wife and Lin was sleeping, Sokka was doting over Suki, annoying the girl. Suki. You shouldn't sleep there. This ledge could give away at any moment, you should sleep over here. He said, referring the edge. So he took her sleeping bag and put it next to his. Sokka, I am fine. Stop worrying. You're right. You're perfectly capable taking care of yourself. However, when she stepped onto her sleeping bag, he jumped in front of her, wait. He paused, oh never mind, I thought I saw a spider. You're fine. Suki just gave him a deadpan look. Katara walked up to a ridge to see Ong staring impassively at the setting sun. You know, it's okay to miss Appa. When he didn't respond, she continued, what's going on with you? In the desert all you cared about was finding Appa, and now it's like you don't care about him at all. You saw what I did out there. I was so angry about losing Appa that I couldn't control myself, I hated feeling like that. He said. But no, you are not letting yourself feel anything. Katara said. I know it sometimes hurts more to hope and it hurts more to care. But you have to promise me you won't stop caring. She said with a smile. And besides, you have not found your circus yet. Aang looked at her sadly. He was hurting because of Appa, but Naruto went through something similar, but he was not ready just yet. Katara smiled as she held out her arms. Come on, you need a hug. Aang turned to her before he bowed to her. Thank you for your concern, Katara. He said before walking, making Katara just stare at the boy with a sad look. Sokka stared at the moon above him. He would do this every night, not forgiving himself for letting Princess Yu die and become the new moon spirit. He didn't notice that Naruto and Kyuubi were above him on a half-circle outcropping. It's a beautiful moon. Suki said as she walked up next to him. Yeah, it really is. He said sadly. Suki sat down next to him and said, look, I know you are just trying to help, but I can take care of myself. I know you can. Then why are you acting too overprotective? Suki asked. It's so hard to lose someone you care about. Sokka replied as he switched his gaze back to the moon. Something happened at the North Pole and I couldn't protect someone. I don't want anything like that to happen again. I lost someone I cared about, he didn't die, he just went away. I only had a few days to get to know him, but he was smart and brave and funny. She said. Sokka's eyebrow rose, thinking it could be Naruto. Who is this guy? He said standing up. Is he taller than me? No, he's about your height. Suki said with a smirk and a shrug. Is he better looking? It is, you stupid. Suki laughed. Oh. Sokka said with a smile. Oh, thank God it is not Naruto, he has enough girls chasing after him. The two looked at each other before their face slowly came together in a kiss, but he pulled away at the last second. I can't. I'm sorry. Suki said, feeling embarrassed. No, you shouldn't be. Sokka said sadly before he walked away, leaving Suki there. Naruto sighed, so I guess the story I heard about the North Pole is true, but he should not beat himself up about it. He thought before jumping away to his sleeping spot to go and stare at the stars. QB, however, stayed because it seemed that someone else was coming. Toph walked up to Suki, who was surprised to see the young girl, and sat down. Suki, can I ask you something? Sure, what is it? The warrior asked. Don't tell anyone we had this conversation, you either Kai. The fox jumped down from his position onto Toph's head. You got it, kid. You have my word. Suki said with a smile. Do you think I am an attractive person? The young girl asked hesitantly. I think you might be asking the wrong person. Suki joked. But, I do. You are a beautiful young girl. Don't think otherwise. Yeah, for a human you are pretty cute. The fox replied. Why do you ask, Toph? Suki asked. Well, I like Naruto, but he doesn't seem interested in me. Toph said sadly. I have known him since we were kids and well. You have feelings for him. Suki deduced, making the blind girl nod. Caillou, you've been with him all this time, does he feel the same way? Toph asked the fox hopefully. The fox sighed, he knew this question was going to pop up sometime. More than you know. This made the girl widen her eyes and smile. But, he doesn't feel that he is worthy for you. What do you mean? You were born from a rich family and he is an orphan boy from the past. QB explained. He thought you could do better than him, so he tried his luck with a girl he saved in the circus. He became a very flirtatious person because of her, but after a few weeks, he still could not help but think of you. He feared that he would never be able to see you again and keep his promise. By this time, Toph actually had tears in her eyes. The blonde cared for her a lot but didn't think he was worthy. Even though he dated another girl at one point, she didn't care. He will always be worthy. Sure, she didn't know what he looked like but she didn't care. So, one day, he made some bullshit excuse saying that his cover had been blown. Oh, and by the way, we were in the edge of the Fire Nation. So he thought if he went deeper, he would never be able to see you again if he got killed. Anyway, we fired the edge of Fire Nation and made our way back to the Earth Kingdom, but the excuse turned to truth because someone spotted the golden fox that day. QB said with a sigh. He still beats himself up about that as well. He really is a good person. Suki said with a smile. Yeah, he is. Toph said softly before he walked off to where Naruto was. QB raised an eyebrow before he turned to Suki and said, well, good night. He quickly made his way over to Katara to see that she was a bit down. Hey, you okay? Yeah, just a bit down that I could not help on. It is like he also pushing us away. The Water Tribe girl said. I am sure he will be fine, he just needs to find his circus. The fox replied, which got a smile from the girl. Yeah, thanks. Katara said before he grabbed the fox and hugged him. Come on Caillou, you can sleep with me tonight. She then laid down while hugging the small fox to herself. She never saw the shit-eating grin he was giving off. Suki saw this before rolling her eyes and going off to sleep. Perverted fox. Toph walked up to her blonde crush to him lying on the ground, looking up, probably at the stars. "Hey Naruto, you mind if I sleep with you tonight?" "Not at all, it would be just like old times," Naruto said with a smile as she laid down next to him while he put an arm around her. After a bit of silence he said, "It won't be long now." "What won't be long?" asked Toph, a bit confused. "Until I come through on my promise," Naruto said with pride. Toph was shocked, QB was right. She brought an arm around him to embrace him as they slept. She let a few tears fall from her eyes. The blonde had such a good heart that he remembered her wish from when they were younger. To be able to see him. The next day, the group continued their trek across the Serpent's Pass. It was fun waking up because the group found Naruto and Toph in the position they fell asleep in. Sure, they tried to tease them about it, but Naruto looked them like they grew second heads. He informed them that they used to sleep like that when they were young, which got Sokka and Aang to laugh their asses off while Katara looked skeptical. Currently, the group had stopped because of the high water level. The path that connects the two slopes of the next section of the Serpent's Pass was covered in water. Naruto looked at it with a bored expression because he could just walk across it with chakra. However, everyone else looked depressed until Katara took charge. Everyone, single file. She ordered as they did what she asked, with Aang in the back. Naruto decided to walk in front of Toph. Katara then used water bending to split the water to the sides for that they could cross. "Aang. I need help," she ordered. Aang handed his staff to Toph, who had Momo on her shoulder, before he aided the water tribe girl in bending the water around them. As the group traveled underwater, they were in awe at the beauty of the underwater landscape. Naruto smiled sadly, he would make sure Toph could get her vision so that she could see this place. QB, who was on Naruto's head, glanced around and saw all the fish swimming around. I am so hungry now," he said with a bored expression. However, he knew not to go outside the bubble they were in because there were always bigger fish. Momo looked at the fish in curiosity before he jumped off of Toph's shoulder and into the water. QB smirked, "Beware the bigger fish, Momo," he called out, getting more of a reaction from the humans around him than Momo. "What do you mean?" Aang asked, wary of the answer. He really hoped this bigger fish did like the taste of Momo. It was then they saw a large figure in the water that made the flying lemur panic before jumping back into the bubble with the others. "What is that thing?" Suki asked in fear. QB eyed it before saying, "The bigger fish." He then shrugged. "This guy is the reason why this place is called the Serpent's Pass." Why?" Sokka asked, clearly afraid, but QB just smirked at the water tribe boy. The bigger fish then leapt at them, breaking the bubble of air they were in, but Naruto had been prepared because he uprooted a boulder and slammed it into the beast, making it veer of course. However, the damage had already been dealt and water was crashing down on all of them. Naruto nodded to Toph and they rose the piece of land they were on to above the water some. They watched the water in fear as whatever it was that attacked them was now circling them before rising out of the water to reveal a large green serpent. Sokka pointed at it in shock before he yelled, "I think I just figured out why they call it the Serpent's Pass." "Oh, now he gets it," QB said while leaning on his paw as he rolled his eyes. Naruto smirked and said, "Yeah, he is kind of slow, but it is me, or has this guy grown in size?" How should I know, I am in this perpetual small size, so everything looks bigger," QB commented. It roared loudly at the group, making Sokka look to Suki and said, "Suki, you know about giant monsters, make it go away." She glared at him before pointing at him angrily, "Just because I live near the Inagi doesn't mean I am an expert." Thinking quickly, Sokka quickly grabbed Momo and QB and yelled, "Oh great and powerful sea serpent, please accept these humble and tasty offerings, thank you." Sokka. Katara chided her brother before QB whipped him in the face with his tails. "Next time, offer yourself, you idiot," the fox shouted. The sea serpent didn't care about the conversation going because roared again before lunging at them. However, Aang used airbending to push it back. "I'll distract it. Katara, get everyone cross," he said before flying off, the sea serpent following him. Katara didn't need to be told twice, so she used her water bending skills to create a bridge made of ice. Once that was done, she veered off to go and help Aang with the sea serpent. As they were running, Naruto noticed that Toph had not moved. "Toph. Come on, it is just ice." Toph put a foot down on the ice, and when she saw nothing, she hesitated and said, "Actually, I am going to stay on my little island where I can see." However, sea serpent that had been fighting Aang and Katara had its tail land right behind her, pushing the blind girl onto the ice. Okay, I'm coming." As Toph itched her way over to the shore, Sokka yelled, "You're doing great. Just follow the sound of my voice." "It is hard to ignore." Toph mumbled aloud. "Ha. She got you there." QB laughed, making Sokka pout. "Toph, you can do it. I believe in you. Just take your time," Naruto said softly, which the girl heard before smiling at her crush. "You're almost there." Sokka yelled before the tail came back and crashed down on the ice this time, making Toph fall into the water. Help. I can't swim. Toph cried. No. I am coming, Toph. Naruto said in a panic. Before he could attempt to walk on water, Suki jumped into the water to save the young blind girl. That made Sokka and Naruto look at each other before shrugging. Sure, the blonde wanted to help her, but Suki was somehow faster. Once Suki got to the girl and kept her above water, Toph was so overjoyed that she said, "Oh Naruto. You saved me." She then gave a kiss on the cheek to Suki, who was a bit shocked. "Actually, it's me," Suki said with some humor. "Oh well." Toph said with some dismay, "You can go ahead and let me drown now." "Heh, and to think that could have been your kiss if you got there fast enough." QB snickered. "Oh shut it." Naruto growled before he noticed the two girls were near them, so he reached down and helped them out of the water. "You okay, Toph?" "Yeah, now that I am on solid ground." Toph replied. "Good, I am just glad you are okay," Naruto said before the others turned to see the end of Aang and Katara's fight against the sea serpent. He never saw the girl blush because of his concern for her. They saw Aang and Katara using water bending to make a large whirlpool that made the sea serpent spin around in rapid circles before they let it go, and the giant sea creature slammed into the other side of the serpent's pass before it completely submerged itself to nurse its wounds. Aang flew the water tribe girl back to the rest of the ground, who was cheering in victory over the sea serpent. Naruto smiled and said, "Nice work you two." Aang rubbed the back of his head, while Katara blushed a bit at the compliment. "It was nothing," Aang replied. "Yeah, just teamwork," Katara said with a smile. "Some damn good teamwork if you ask me," Naruto said. He paused as he felt the chakra of the beast coming back to them, but he knew why it was here. "Excuse me," he said to the other before he walked out onto the water, shocking the small family and Suki. "What is he doing?" Sokka asked. "I don't know," Aang replied just a confused. "Oh, he is just saying hi to an old friend," QB replied, getting odd looks before they saw the sea serpent rise out of the water next to the blonde. "Watch out." Everyone screamed. Naruto gave them a smile as he raised his hand out to the beast as it put its snout on his outstretched hand, shocking the group even further. Naruto smirked at the beast and said, "Now you know not to harm the people that I travel with." It let out a sound that was a mix between a growl and purr. Know that thing?" Sokka asked in shock. "Well, there was a story out there that the golden fox tamed a beast that lived in the waters around here," Ton replied. "So cool." Aang cried out. Toph smiled, she should have known her oldest friend would be able to do that. She wondered what other surprises he had up his sleeve. Katara smiled happily, even though she was confused, she thought that it was sweet that Naruto befriended a huge beast like this. The sea serpent was kind of like Appa. She admired that the blonde was as powerful as they saw he was while also being funny and kind to people and animals around him. "It is nice to see you after this years, and you have gotten bigger," Naruto commented before he and the beast froze up before looking at the wide open water near them. They saw a lone figure standing the water like he was, but he was smirking the group and clapping. This boy was about their age, or looked like it. He had messy gray hair, pink pupilless eyes, and what seems to be a stitch-like scar running from under his left eye all the way down his cheek. He had a dull expression and wore a gray undershirt with short mesh sleeves, which has a metal plate of a Kurigakure forehead protector sewn onto it, over which he also wears a green poncho, a turquoise sash around his waist, paired with a green ingement over his pants. He wore a pair of brown boots opened on the back, and on his back, he has a staff-like pole weapon with uneven hooks with a green flower on the end of the larger hook. However, for Naruto, what really gave the boy away was a green turtle with 3 tails next to him. Naruto narrowed his eyes as the group turned to see the person the blonde was looking at. "Bravo, I must say that was an interesting display of power. But even I can defeat that thing with ease even in this odd weakened state," the boy stated. "I can assume that you are the bearer of the 3 tails then?" Naruto asked. The pink-eyed boy stared at Naruto before saying, "That would be me. I am Yagura, former Mizukage of the Kiri, and you are Naruto Uzumaki. The one I was sent to this time period to capture. But I really don't feel like following that man's orders any longer. He may have controlled me that last few years to keep the damn civil war going on in Kiri, but I am in control now." "What? You mean the ring-eyed man?" "Pain? No. I mean an old Uchiha, Madara Uchiha to be exact," Yagura replied. "Now my blonde friend, I would rather follow you, but I will not do so blindly like I did that man. So I will have to test your strength to see if you are worthy." Naruto nodded before he jumped on the sea serpent's head. "Well then, bring it on." Let's see how good you really are, Naruto Uzumaki," Yagura shouted, the turtle saying nothing at all as it got ready to fight. Sokka that noticed that QB was on his head. "What? You're not going to help him?" The fox rolled his eyes. Nah, if things get bad I'll help, but the turtle ain't that strong or smart. However, if this kid was the Mizukage, then Naruto will have a challenge on his hands. I just hope he comes out of this okay. Katara said. No way will he lose. Toph said with confidence. He does not know how to lose. Megura eyed his opponent on the large serpent and smirked. He would have to get rid of the beast if he wanted the blonde to fight for real. Going through a few hand signs he called out, water style. Exploding water colliding wave. Even though there was water all around the two combatants, Yagura spat out a torrent of raging water that formed large wave that head for the blonde bender. Naruto mentally cursed with a frown on his face. Why when I am fighting these guys I'm at a disadvantage? Seriously, first sand and now water. However, he shrugged off the unfairness of these annoying battles as he ran to the tip of the serpent's snout. Just as the water was about to collide with him, he sent out a massive wave of gravity that corrupted the water attack, making it harmlessly fly past them. That was freaking amazing. Sokka shouted with stars in his eyes. It was. Katara said in shock that someone could do that odd water attack from their mouth no less, and then have that attack batted away like it was nothing. Oh, you guys have seen nothing. Just wait for the good stuff to happen. The talking fox said with smirk. Suki could only nod her head. This kid, the golden fox, was already a legend, and if she had to guess, he was probably on par with the Avatar, but you never know. Naruto smirked at his opponent before he turned to the beast he was on and said, this is a battle between me and him, I'll call if I really need you. The beast seemed to nod as Naruto hopped off of it as the beast submerged itself. Megura saw this and it seemed his plan had worked, now he could see what this blonde was capable of. Water style. Water shockwave. Yagura created a medium-sized tornado of water before it exploded outward, sending a large and violent wave of water straight at the blonde. While Naruto was busy with the frontal attack, he prepared another to surprise the blonde. Water style. 1,000 feeding sharks. Naruto growled as he had to put a lot more effort into gravity, bending the water wave safely away from him and for it to not hit the others. So image his surprise when a multitude of watery sharks followed the attack. Taking the Hyuga style of fighting into full use, he released his claws before he shouted, 8 trigrams. 128 palms. The result was something that not even Yagura expected. In a flurry of movement, Naruto struck down multiple water sharks with each strike he sent out. But the way he was moving, they thought he was using a clone jutsu to move so fast, but it was all him, and with the Hyuga's lightning bending style, it made the attack all the more deadly, as all the sharks were dispersed in the rapid lightning show. At the last strike, Naruto sent a bolt of lightning that went through that last few sharks and kept on traveling towards Yagura. If Naruto had bothered to look behind him, he would have seen that some of the water had turned to ice. However, despite his shock at the power the blonde has just displayed, the former Mizukage erected a wall of water just in time, but it was not enough because that exploded right in his face. He sunk in the water some, but quickly regained his senses and righted himself. If he had done so sooner, he would have seen Naruto disappear from sight. The blonde blasted across the water like a speeding car. When he reached the former Jinchuriki of the Three Tails, he slashed across his chest with his electrified claw, stunning the gray-haired boy for just enough time for Naruto to leave a present in the form of small balls of lightning around his person. It was then that Yagura noticed Naruto's new position and the small balls of lightning floating above the water around him. He rose an eyebrow and asked, I think you missed. Naruto smirked. No, not really, I am just trying something new. He then snapped his fingers, and the small balls exploded in a flurry of lightning that completely electrocuted that boy. Damn, that time really has dulled my senses. Yagura growled to himself as pain shot through body. I will not lose, damn it. The boy shouted as he suddenly stood and making the lightning arcing across his body to stop. Water style. Tornado of water. He shouted angrily as he slammed his fists down into the water. The result was the water level to go down as a large tornado made a violent rotating water to rise high above the Serpent's Pass, making all those away from the pass wonder what hell was going on. However, they would not dare look because of fear. Naruto looked at the tornado in shock before switching his gaze to Yagura, who looked to be very tired from overloading the attack with his remaining chakra. If he was lucky, he could end this now. Getting into another Hyuga stance, he shouted, lightning rotation. Right as the tornado of water reached him. However, since he was rotating in the opposite direction, the attacks were starting to lose control, so he used a mixture of chakra and gravity bending to keep it all together and compress it. The result made all the water and lightning to form just above his palm. Yagura was shell-shocked at this, and he was actually afraid. The blonde was way stronger and creative than he gave him credit for. This is impossible. Nah, not really, Naruto commented with a smirk, but grimaced because he was starting to lose control over all this power. So he speed to Yagura and shouted, 8 trigrams. Lightning Mountain Crusher. That attack hit and exploded in the former Mizukage's face, violently electrocuting him and making his skip back across the water, where he lay there lifelessly before the turtle swim next to the boy. I will give you one last chance to beat him, I have enough chakra for that. It would have been better if we did this at the beginning of the fight. It said before it fused with the boy before they grew into a much larger version of the turtle. Okay, this is getting old. Naruto commented with a deadpan expression. The giant turtle, with the dual voices of Yagura and the turtle, screamed out, full power water style. Three-tailed giant turtle water balls. 4 large balls of water rose up out of the water before that shot off spiraling towards the blonde. Naruto cursed, but then smirked. Since he could not avoid the attack above water, he cut the flow of chakra to his feet and submerged himself, letting the attack fly harmlessly above him. Jumping back out of the water, he saw the form of Yagura with reptilian-like green eyes staring at him shock. Naruto finally took a look at where he fought the sharks and saw the ice. Supercharging the water made it ice. Cool. He thought before he slammed his fist into the water, sending a massive amount of lightning through the water towards Yagura, who had an oh shit look. The water instantly froze while also jutting out large spikes. When it finally reached the gray-haired boy, it rose the water up, trapping the boy in a tower of spiky ice. Oh crap. THST fight is freaking insane. Sokka shouted with his hand on his head. Told ya. QB replied, but if I know Naruto, he will end it with a bang. He created ice by electrocuting the water. Katara finally got out in shock. I know. Awesome, right? Aang said with excitement. You bet. Katara said happily. This battle is like a battle between titans. Suki shouted. I know what you mean, I am really getting into it. Tan shouted with stars in his eyes. QB was right, Naruto formed a Rasengan in his right hand before he shot through the ice before jumping with a large shadow behind him. Serpent's Rasengan. He shouted, before thrusting the ball of energy into the ice where the frozen Yagura was and into his stomach. However, that was not the end. The sea serpent from before let out a deafening roar that brought more force to the attack before something odd happened. Chakra leaked from the beast that reacted with Naruto's, and it created said serpent in chakra form. Yagura then shot off into the pass ahead of the group, with the chakra form following boy as they crashed. In an instant, Naruto was above the barely conscious boy. Damn, that was intense. He said. You're right. Yagura replied with heavy breaths. You have earned my respect, Naruto Uzumaki. I shall follow you. That's nice. Said a female voice. Naruto turned to see Yujito and Gaara behind him with their tailed beasts. We need another to find the rest of us. We have decided to form a merc group with Naruto as our leader. Sounds good to me, Naruto said a little weakly, the adrenaline finally dissipating and exhaustion setting in. It is indeed a good choice. The turtle spoke, traveling around this place will help you learn more, and with the Uzumaki traveling to this Ba Sing Se place, that could be our base for the time being. The Guru stared at his reptilian friend, who had left his body during the final attack, before he nodded. I see. I will do it. Good. Came the monotone of Gaara with his arms crossed. Yeah, with the 3 of us, we could find the others in no time. Yujito replied with a smile. Yeah, and traveling with 2 guys has nothing to do with it. Teased Nibi, making the girl blush. Wait, so you guys are on our side? Sokka finally voiced. Indeed. We serve Naruto because he is the strongest amongst us, but we do have to check in with Pain every now and then. Yagura replied as he weakly got up. In a way, we are double agents for Naruto. Wow. Aang said. That is useful. Yep. Naruto said with a smile. Yagura, you should rest before heading out. Yagura smiled weakly before sitting back down. Thank you. It is no problem. Naruto said with a smile before he turned to the others. Well, it is not long now. With that, the group continued their trek across the Serpent's Pass after that epic battle. Yagura smiled, something he did not usually do. We are in good hands and so are the people he is with. He replied, getting a nod from the other 2. Once they were finally at the end of the deadly Serpent's Pass, a tired Sokka instantly perked up and yelled, there's the wall. He pointed to the large stone wall of Ba Sing Se in the distance. Now it is nothing smooth sailing to Ba Sing Se. Ah. Oh no. Tan's wife said in a panic as she held her stomach. What's wrong? Asked the Water Tribe boy. The baby's coming. She said as he family helped set her on the ground. You were saying Sokka. QP snickered. Ignoring the smartest fox he panicked and asked, what? Now? Can't you hold it in or something? Sokka, calm down. I helped Gran deliver lots of babies back home. Katara said trying to calm her brother down. This isn't the same as delivering an Arctic seal. He freaked. This is a real human thing. It's called a baby. She deadpanned. And I helped deliver plenty of those too. Well, since you know what you are doing, you should lead us on what to do. Naruto replied. She nodded before he began ordering people around. Aang, get some rags, Sokka, water. Toph, Naruto, I need you two to make an earth tent, a big one. The four nodded, doing what they were told. While Aang and Sokka ran off to get what was needed, Naruto and Toph went to opposite sides of the family and rose a large earth tent, to which Katara immediately entered with Suki not far behind. This was not what I was expecting to do today. Naruto said with a chuckle as he and Toph leaned against the tent. Yeah, but it is a nice change. Toph replied with a smirk. Sokka. Where's that water? Katara yelled from within the tent. Humming. The water tribe boy called as he made his way to the entrance of the tent. What he saw made him faint. However, with his eyes closed, Naruto caught the water before it split all over the place. Here you go. He said the water tribe girl, while Ying screamed in pain. Katara smiled as she took it from him, thinking he was such a gentleman for getting the water in time and keeping his eyes closed for obvious reasons. Now she knew that he may be a flirt, but he was defiantly not a pervert. Naruto left the tent, dragging Sokka out with him. Crying could be heard from inside the tent, signifying that it was a healthy baby. It's a girl. Katara called from inside the tent. Toph smirked and asked Sokka, so you want to go see the baby or are you going to faint like an old again? No, I'm good this time. Sokka replied while rubbing his head. Still you gotta admit that it was funny. QB said from atop Naruto's head, making Toph snicker. Got that right. Naruto replied with a smirk. Sokka just glared at them. Once they went inside, Katara went out to usher Aang in. Aang, you have to come see this. The Avatar nodded before he went in as well. See, sounds healthy. Toph stated happily. She's beautiful. Katara said. Yeah, she'll be a knockout when she's older, so look out dad. Naruto joked around, making the man glare at him before laughing. She's so squishy looking. Sokka observed. That is a newborn human, what did you expect? Deadpan QB. Just looking at the baby made everyone smile in happiness, including Aang, who was touched by the scene. It didn't register to the two earthbenders, but their hand joined as they stared the new baby with smiles. What should we call her? Tan asked his wife. I want our daughter's name to be unique, I want it to mean something. Ying replied softly. Tears welled up in Aang's eyes before he wiped them away and said, I've been going through a really hard time lately, but you've made me hopefully again. Naruto snapped his fingers, who did not notice he had been holding hands with Toph, but she did, that's it. In a place where all hope is lost in the place known as the Serpent Pass, you held on it for your child. Hope, she was your hope. The couple blinked as they looked at each other before smiling. I know what I want to call our baby now, Hope. Ying said. That's a wonderful name, Hope. Tan replied happily while Aang looked at Katara and thanks for telling to see this. Tan looked at both Naruto and Aang. I want to thank you two for the wonderful idea. It was my honor to travel with the Avatar and the Golden Fox and for you two to be there when our daughter was born. Hey, it is no problem. Naruto replied with a smile. I was just happy to help. Aang nodded before they walked out of the tent to give the small family some time alone together. Aang and Katara were by a nearby tree, speaking to one another. I thought I was trying to be strong. Aang said, but really I was just running away from my feelings. Seeing this family together with so much happiness and love along with Naruto's words, reminded me how much I feel about Appa and how I feel about you. Katara let a few tears fall at his word before they embrace in a heartfelt hug, even though she was still confused in her feeling for Aang and Naruto, she would still help friends out. I promise I'll find Appa as soon as I can, I just really need to do this. Aang said as the others came over to him. See you in the big city. Sokka replied as he put a hand on the airbender's shoulder. Say hi to that big fuzzball for me. Toph said as he punched Aang in the shoulder. Same for me. Naruto said with a smirk. Oh, and tell Appa that I'm not just small, I am fun size. QB ordered with a smirk, which got the group laughing. You'll find him, Aang. Katara said with a smile. I know, thank you Katara. Aang replied before taking off on his glider with Momo not far behind. But Sokka and Suki, who were near a mountainside, they too were speaking on matters of the heart. Sokka, it's really been great to see you again. Whoa, hold on, why does it sound like you are saying goodbye? I came along so I make sure you guys got through the Serpent's Pass safely. She said. But now I need to get back to the other Kaioshin warriors. Sokka looked at her, flabbergasted, so you came along to protect me? Listen, I am really sorry about last night. We were talking and saying things. I just got carried away and before I knew it, Suki said before Sokka captured her in a kiss. You talk too much. He said with a smile before he went back to kissing her. She could not take it anymore. Through her earth vision, Toph heard and saw everything between Sokka and Suki. She stalked right up to Naruto, who was staring at the clouds, before she used earth bending to sink him down ankle deep and then impacting him in the mountainside. What is going on? Naruto asked surprised. Listen up Naruto, QB told me about your feelings for me Toph stated and Naruto glared at the small fox who just shrugged with a smirk. I don't care if you think that you are now worthy for me, but I think you are. She said, shocking the boy before she smashed her lips against his. Naruto, when she broke away, got out of his position and said, are you sure you want this? I mean you could have someone better than me. So what, I want you and you better like it. She replied with smirk. Heh, guess I shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth, should I? Naruto asked rhetorically before he captured her in a deep kiss, making the blind guy happy. She broke the kiss and said, oh and I would not mind meeting the circus girl that saved your heart as well. Naruto chuckled nervously before she returned to kissing him. A little ways away, Katara saw this with a shock before she smirked evilly, this is not over, Toph. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.